It is Steve Warne along with the coach, Gregg Kennedy, and we are coming at you on a Saturday afternoon, right after the Sens put together a start the car kind of a victory over the Philadelphia Flyers. They win it 3-2 in overtime. We'll talk about some other games this week and some of the other Senators news that's out there. So thank you very much for being with us, whether you're on some kind of an audio platform or whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on CJRO radio. We do appreciate you being here. Gregg, how are you today?
Good, Stephen. I just finished watching the game like you. Bit of a sleeper at times, but hey, a dub's a dub, especially a road game. In today's NHL, that's okay. They're like 6-3-3 since Brady's been out. Did you know that?
Yeah, they
12
absolutely,
games
and
without
then they've
Brady
also
and
in
15.
their last 8 games, they've only lost one time in regulation. So they're a tough out.
Yeah.
Even without a good performance between the pipes, even without Brady Tkachuk, even with some guys who are scuffling, guys like Zetterlund, who's paid over $4 million a year. He's got 3 points in 15 games now. Ridley Gregg, he's got, I got that backwards. 4 points for Gregg, 3 points for Zetterlund, both now in 15 games. So not ideal. And with the captain out, it's just a case, Allmark will settle down. He will. He always has. And Tkachuk will get back, and guys will start, scoring more toward their average totals that they have in their career. So I'm still encouraged, but I understand why Sens fans are a little bit frustrated here and there because they know what this team can be. They've just been Jekyll and Hyde so far this year.
Yeah, but as you just went through, though, the stats, they're putting points in the bank, right? Like, let's get points when we can get points. They're on a playoff pace right now, despite the congestion that is the Atlantic Division standings. They're on pace for a playoff spot and not playing their best hockey and missing arguably their best all-around player. So, weather the storm, get through this crap. The big interesting thing is going to be they're at home for 4, and then it's 7 in a row on the road, like 7 straight on the road, and not exactly a slouch in the bunch there. That's going to be the big test. It's going to be another Ottawa Senator November. How are they going to do? What kind of record are they going to have come the end of the month? I think the next this month is going to be the telling events of the season are going to happen in the next month.
I certainly understand why Sens fans were frustrated on Saturday afternoon as that game went on. When you go, I think it was something like 22 minutes or something without a single shot in the game. And it was particularly interesting because they were so good in the first period. That first period in Philly, that road period, that was as good as it gets for the Sens. And they just offensively shut down after that. But you're quite right. Like, there's that old adage, there's never room for description on the score sheet. That's never more true than when you're on the road. Who cares if you didn't get any shots? You got 2 points in a road game. There's nothing else to be said after that.
Yeah, the biggest difference being, okay, we know that there's or has been historically a bit of a problem scoring 5-on-5. It's been evident in these last few games of Boston and this one here in Philly, and even to a certain extent Montreal. But if you're not going to give up a lot 5-on-5, then it's okay. You can survive it, right? That's what allows you to get the point against the Bruins. That's what allows you to get 2 tonight, is that they had some better goaltending, despite, maybe a bit of a bad goal in Boston. But despite that, you picked up 3 points in these last 2 games, only scoring a couple of goals a night. The 5-on-5 gets going offensively to match what so far has been pretty darn good defensively, then we're okay. Just weather the storm. I'm going to stick with that, Steve. I'm going to get T-shirts. Weather the storm till Brady's back in town.
Yeah, that's what they're doing, all right. And in games where goals and shots are hard to come by, and this is also, I think, something you think about come playoff time, because, again, goals and shots are even harder to come by then. It's so helpful, and this is such an obvious take, I understand, but to have those high-end finishers, those high-end skill guys, the more guys you have, even in games where there's not many shots, the ones you get, you want those to be on the stick blade of your top guys, and Tim Stützle had a couple of beauties today, a great one-timer in the first period on a feed from David Perron. And how about old Drake Batherson? 7 days after a Saturday gaffe in overtime, a really bad pass in OT led to the game-winning goal in Montreal. The following Saturday, he comes back with an absolutely perfect pass in overtime to help the Senators defeat the Philadelphia Flyers in a game that they probably were outplayed. I think that's pretty safe to say. A greasy victory. Gorgeous pass, though. Guy goes to the far post. Stützle tucks it in. And you need your cream to rise to the top, don't you?
Yeah, and what a gem that pass! Like the vertical stretch of that of the drag play, like he dragged it back from all the way over to his right to all the way across to his left while moving his feet to his left. Beautiful play. And generally, you see a guy do something like that, he's going to pull it like that to get himself a better shooting lane. And no doubt that's what Philly was thinking. Oh, he's going to shoot it now. And instead, he found Stützle, who credit to Stützle. He turned on the Jets from the blue line in, drive the far post on the offside there, drive that far post and get rewarded with a simple enough tap in. And the other thing, to go back to the point of scoring goals, you were talking about the snipers having to score goals. Well, Michael Amadio, there's somebody stepping up for you. He's got 3 goals in 3 games now. That's important too, right? The depth scoring needs to show up as well. And Amadio doing well. Some of the other depth guys, maybe not so much. I saw you tweet about one of them, but the depth scoring from Michael Amadio, the much needed scoring from the upper parts of the lineup, and you get a win.
5 goals on the season for Amadio, 3 goals in as many games, and with his 5 goals, he's now 4th on the team in goal scoring. I don't think anybody had Amadio at that point at this stage of the season, but good to see. You need that secondary scoring from somewhere. Doesn't really matter where, but again, you would like to see the Zetterlands and the Greggs of the world get going here. It's time now for NHL fashion tips with Gregg and Steve. For one, I looked it up finally today. I didn't know this story about why the Philadelphia Flyers, who were the opponent on Saturday, why they have the white name bar on the orange. That's a classic they've had back to the 1970s. They got away from it for a while, and then I think around the year they went to the Cup final, and Giroux was a young man there, around 2010, they brought back that white patch with the black letters on it, and I liked it at the time because I said it reminds me of the Broad Street Bullies when I was a little kid. And we're going to talk Broad Street Bullies here in a second because a key member of that team passed away today. As I get my earbud back in here, I do that once a show where I'm
I'm good.
Moving my arms around and knocking my wire. Anyway, so that name bar goes back to the 70s, and I finally read up on why they use those white name bars from back in the 70s. And it just basically was back in the 70s. It happened because almost nobody on the road wore their names. They just wore them at home. You only ever had your names for a key part of time in the 70s. The home teams would only wear them. But on the road, NBC asked, okay, we're trying to get this NHL thing going on NBC here and get the Americans into the NHL. So can everybody wear them? And all the Flyers had at the time was their whites, their white homes. And so they threw those on and they seem to stick. And now they're full bore now because they wear their whites. They have the black name bars. And so that's why that exists. So there's your NHL fashion trivia. But the other thing is the Sens going with black buckets on the road. It was that Montreal game, I think it was, or was the Boston game? But
Montreal.
That was different. What did you think?
Loved it, Steve. I thought it looked great. Like if you look at the uniform as a whole, you got white socks and a white jersey. The complementary color is the black, which is the pants. It makes sense for the helmet to be black. I thought it looked awesome. I noticed it right away and thought, this is cool. They should do this more often. Like, I don't need some fancy metallic gold or, like the LA Kings where they pull out those stupid looking buckets, or Vegas wears silly looking buckets. I thought the black looked awesome. And then I saw you tweeting that you weren't a fan of it, but I thought it looked great.
I wasn't a fan of it on TV, but then I saw some of the still photos and I understand why they were enamored with it. I liked it in still photos, but on TV, it looked like they didn't have helmets on at all, which looked a little odd, speaking of the 70s.
You need bigger screens.
I didn't love it on TV, but I have a great screen. There's one thing I like to buy is TVs and hockey equipment. Get me the latest Get me the latest and greatest on both, and
Okay.
off we go. You've still got a cough switch there, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
I wish I had the light. I wish I had the light switch. There seems to be a bulb. I think I got like a little light bulb right there in the middle of that. I got to go figure out. See it? Like, what is that?
Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I think that's just your monitor that's reflecting off your glasses.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Sorry, go ahead.
so a random. That's okay. I'm moving on. So a random fashion segment in the middle of the show. Let's get back to what is important, and that is the actual hockey. And that is one of the interesting things that was Travis Green doing the old lines in a blender, as they say, mixing up his lines a little bit. Nick Cousins, after, I don't know, seemed like it was half a dozen games where he's on the top line with Batherson and Stützle. He goes right down to the fourth line. And then you've got Ridley Gregg moving up alongside Stützle, Perron alongside Stützle to start the game. And you also had Ridley Gregg moving up to the second line. And Jordan Spence got to play a hockey game, only his sixth start of the season.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the changes on Saturday?
Well, if the idea was to get some people going, yeah, I guess it worked, right? Like you had a really good game out of Stützle. I don't know that Ridley Gregg belongs up there, but that's okay. He did fine, right? It was Gregg and Perron and Stützle. I really thought Zetterlund, my God, if this guy ever scores a goal, he's going to get 12. He looked real good playing with Batherson and Cousins. I like that line. And you mentioned Spence. Anytime this guy plays, I love watching him play. He made a great play on was it the second goal? He made a first goal. Anyway, the one goal where he pinched in, kept the puck in. It was the Stützle one-timer goal. Made a great play. He had some time on the ice. He played some 4-on-4. I noticed he was employed at 4-on-4 situations. So they have an understanding, I think, of what the guy can bring from an offensive side of things. And he got a lot more ice time. I really thought that was great. Hey, whatever works, right? And Travis Green has not been scared of trying to change some things and shuffle some stuff and find something that works. And I think he found some stuff that works today.
Yeah, I guess so. It just didn't offensively do a whole lot, but they got the W. So we assess the line combinations the same way we do, the outcome of the game. It's not about, it's not about anything but the W. So you win on the road, you've done the right thing. But yeah, I just hope that Gregg and Zetterlund, whose efforts I never have a problem with, I just hope that they start getting rewarded with some actual, apples and cookies in there. But it is what it is. Meanwhile, Linus Ullmark, if we're going to hand out accolades, he's been, I don't want to use the word whipping boy, but a lot of Sens fans have been falling out of love with him in recent games. It's awfully early to be doing that. He certainly deserves criticism. Man, what was that in overtime against Boston with Charlie McAvoy? Yeah, he shouldn't have been able to skate to the net the way he did, or at least the angle to the net that he had. Shane Pinto, I think, was banking on a drop pass there and bought into it. So McAvoy streaks down the right wing toward Ullmark, and initially I thought it was like, an attempt at a pass. No, he basically shot a little softy on net, I think hoping the rebound would spit out, but in fact it went through Ullmark, and then Zacha's able to come in and as the puck just lay there behind Ullmark, tuck that in. An NHL goalie shouldn't allow that, but he did, and it's not been a very good start for Linus Ullmark, but a good game I thought against Philadelphia, so credit for that, and baby steps, I suppose. What say you about Ullmark?
Yeah, I think he'd be the first to admit, and he hasn't been at his best, but again, I go back to the same thing. You get the points. We're getting the points, putting points in the bank. The Claude Giroux goal was pretty darn bad against Korpisalo. I was more disappointed with the Senators not shooting more. Like, they know Korpisalo can sometimes be a bit of a sieve. I was disappointed that they weren't shooting the puck more and getting more offense to help out Ullmark. I thought, a bit of a crappy goal. It snuck through his pads and was sitting there on the ice. But, he's going to give up a bad one here and there. It was only a one-goal game. They got a point in overtime. I guess I'm sticking with my same thing, Steve. Stay the course. Weather the storm. We're going to get through this. And I think the same thing with Ullmark and his sort of a funky start here with his bad numbers so far. Stay the course. He's coming on. He's coming on. It wasn't a 5 or 6 goal night. It's been 2 or 3, and that's a lot better. The outcomes have been better. I think he's on the other side of it now, and he's getting his way out of it.
Hockey season is finally here. This is where fans show their colors. The cheers, the rivalries, and the late night games. But your home should be part of the game too. Control your lights from anywhere with a phone or a tablet. With Celebrate Permanent Lighting, you can show off your team's colors all season long. Celebrate every win and stand out every season with Celebrate Permanent Holiday Lighting.
As we're recording this, Gregg, we are expecting a big old snowstorm on Sunday. And it's time. Well, you probably should have them on by now, but everybody's now panicking when you see that first snowfall happens. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, I've got to get those snow tires on. And the good folks at Midas are here to help, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our new sponsor, Steve, the Midas, the 5 locations here in Ottawa and 1 in Gatineau, 4 in Ottawa, 1 in Gatineau, have joined us as a sponsor, and they got a deal on with these Nexen, N-E-X-E-N, Nexen tires, a good mid-range tire, I'm told. And these puppies are on buy 3, get 1 free. Like, that's 25% off, Steve. You can't beat that with a stick. If you're suddenly realizing, oh my God, winter's here and you haven't got your tires yet, you might want to hop into one of these 5 Midas shops. There's one in Orleans. There's one at Bank Street, just south of Heron there. There's one at Bell's Corners. There's one at Bronson, just north of the Queensway. And of course, Gatineau, as I said. Any one of these spots, get in there, get some tires, buy 3, get 1 free on these Nexens. That's a hell of a deal.
Travis Green had to address this a bit last year. And that's the notion of shutting things down, that there's so much of a commitment to structure and playing the game the right way defensively that can maybe affect you on the offensive side. And at one point last season, Travis Green addressed that and said, no, we're still out there trying. We want guys to provide offense. We want guys to push offensively. But is there maybe something to that? Like, I think about that Philadelphia game today, that you go almost, like the second half of that game, they had 1 shot. They're nursing a lead and then they're hanging on at 2-2. Is there something to that sometimes when you're being tasked with being so sublime on the defensive side of the puck that maybe it takes away a little bit of your offensive mojo?
That's exactly it. You know that. Yeah. I'm concentrating so hard on playing defense that I get to the point where I don't even want to try to do anything aggressively on offense in case I get caught up ice. But the problem was, or the issue here was, they were doing fine. Like the first period, they were above their check. The forecheck game was incredible. Really no time or space on the ice for either team, I thought. Like Philly did a pretty good job, too. There wasn't a lot of time or space on that ice all game long. But I thought the Senators, the first period, were awesome. They were on top of the check, turning pucks over. When it was time to pull out, they were pulling out. Like they played very, very well. But at the same time, we're getting offensive chances off that forecheck. By the time it rolled around to the late second period, into the third period, they seemed tentative about then jumping on the offense off a turnover. That transition wasn't quite the same the more the game wore on. And that was the disappointing part, and that's why they went so long without a shot. Like, they didn't really generate anything off the rush. All their generated offense early in the game was mostly off turnovers and forecheck. And it just, they stopped turning that switch and going to offense off the turnovers, and therefore you went 20 some odd minutes without a shot on net. But that's a little simple enough thing to tweak. It's just, hey fellas, let's not forget we still need to score goals this league to win games, and most nights 3 isn't enough. You probably need to get some more. So that one's an easy one to fix. Now, if they're giving up 4 and 5, that's a problem. But as I said earlier, as long as you're only giving up 2 a night, you're doing okay, and you can win games that way.
I wonder if it was physical or philosophical or strategic. Like, I think about how good they were in that first period. They were a buzzsaw. They were all over the Flyers, and they were flying in the first. And they got a 2-0 lead after 1, so they were rewarded for that. And I wonder if it's physical from the perspective of you play with your hair on fire that hard for that long in the first period. Maybe the gas tank gets lowered a little bit, just enough to allow the Flyers back into the game, or maybe it's strategic. You shut things down, as they say in soccer, park the bus. We have a 2-0 lead and we're playing well. Let's play good defense. And then you let the other team back in, and it's hard to flick that switch again after you've been playing defense for 25, 30 minutes. So I would wonder about that, which of those things it is. But go ahead.
It was nothing from a strategic standpoint. It's not like suddenly, like the defensemen were still coming down the walls. They were still playing a 2-man forecheck. I think it was just, more of an emotional, mental thing that it was not, I don't think, a philosophical change made by the coaching staff or the players to now play a different way. They just, when the turnovers came off the forecheck, instead of transitioning to offense, they were a little too quick to jump back and reload on the neutral zone forecheck. I thought that's the way I read it anyway.
So that's 3 games in a row that the Sens end up in overtime, and 3's the charm. They end up with the W in this one. And quite frankly, when I compare it to the Montreal game, the Boston game, and the Philadelphia game, I would say this would be the one they least deserve to win. But that's hockey, and that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say. A couple of other notes as we start to, well, we got a little bit of time left here, but we decided to do a fairly quick one on a Saturday afternoon here. We just learned that the first general manager of the Ottawa Senators, Mel Bridgeman, passed away today at the age of 70. What are your memories of Mel Bridgeman, a proud member of that old Broad Street Bullies team in the 70s?
Yeah. My first thoughts of Mel Bridgeman are always as a player. And I always go back to this guy was a first overall pick. And then you look at his stats, it was something like 160 points in his draft year in junior. The guy put up some numbers, but in the NHL, he didn't quite get to 1,000 games, did he? And I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, how many points he had. I think he had one 30-goal season. But in his day, probably one of the few power forwards of his day. This was a big man, big barrel-chested. I think of him being a big man on the ice and could play some shutdown minutes. It could also contribute some offense, penalty killer, the power play guy, probably second unit power play guy, face-off guy. Like he had a captain in 2 places. He was captain in New Jersey, I believe, and he was definitely captain of the Flyers. He replaced Bobby Clarke, for crying out loud. When Bobby Clarke was big in the NHL Players Association, they decided that maybe he shouldn't be the captain. He's too busy doing other things. So he stepped aside and Mel Bridgeman took his place. I think of Mel Bridgeman as the player, being a grinding power forward of the 70s and 80s. That's more my memory of Mel Bridgeman when I think of him as opposed to GM of the Ottawa Senators.
I remember those GM days. I remember when the Sens ended up hiring Mel Bridgeman. There was some dialogue about, okay, what level of experience does he have? But he was so smart. I believe he had his law degree. And despite how ferocious he was on the ice, he was fairly scholarly. And he comes in as the general manager, and it didn't go well for him. He didn't last. But that's how it is with expansion teams of back in the day. It's not like your expansion teams today. Your father's expansion teams, they were built and born to be terrible. So some really quality people, whether it's Bridgeman or Rick Bowness, or players like Laurie Boschman, like some really quality people got caught up in the swirl of awfulness because of the roster and the expansion draft rules. Literally everybody on that team, from the top down to the bottom, was set up for failure. And unfortunately, Mel Bridgeman was caught up in that. But certainly some sad news today as Mel Bridgeman passes away at the age of 70. Anything else you wanted to mention there?
Ottawa apologizes. At the expansion draft. They showed up at the expansion draft and forgot to bring the power cords for the laptops and didn't have their list in front of them and had to keep saying, Ottawa apologizes. Ottawa, it's your pick. We need a minute here. Ottawa apologizes. And it was Wharton, actually. He went to business school, I think. If I'm not mistaken, he went to the Wharton School of Business at Penn, not Penn State, Penn, University of Pennsylvania. Wharton School of Business is where Mel Bridgeman went and got himself educated. And I'm not sure about the lawyer part, but I could certainly agree with you if you said he did go to law school. But I know he went to business school, which was kind of a smart, savvy decision for a guy. Post-career as a hockey player, what are you going to do? He turned himself into an executive and was really only 2 years, maybe 3 years removed from being a player when he became GM in Ottawa. That's impressive, right? A guy who went and educated himself and said, yeah, I'm ready to do this. Good for him.
Yeah, and if I'm misremembering that, Steve apologizes.
No,
Huh?
you're probably right.
Huh?
I'm probably
No?
misremembering.
No.
Steve apologizes.
Yeah, that's what I was going back to the Ottawa apologizes thing.
I
It was that's when, ladies and gentlemen, that's when laptops were brand new. Just, it's not one of those deals like, what do? We don't have a charger here. Well, yeah, it's a little trickier back then because laptops, like I say, were not as commonplace in the world. Anyway, a couple other things before we wrap this up, and that is the ladies' side of pro hockey in Ottawa. And there's been a lot of dialogue over Lansdowne 2.0. They're going to invest $400 million. City Council announced that on Friday. They voted 15-10 in favor of actually doing the rebuild again. Seems like just yesterday that they rebuilt the thing, something like 2014 or something like that, but they didn't exactly finish it off. The Civic Center still not in great shape. The North Side not in great shape. So both of those things are about to be replaced. North Side will obviously stay in the same place, but the Civic Center will be taken down, and it'll now end up in the what would be the East End zone. And as part of all that, the PWHL and the Ottawa Charge are not very happy that the arena will go from, what is the Civic Center now? Is it 8,000 or 9,000, something like that?
It was always 91, 92 in these Senator days. So, but I think you're right. It's like 88 or something now.
Yeah, I think the Senators were able to get it to 10 in a pinch somehow at the Civic Center in their 3 or 4 years that they were there before they moved to the Palladium, as it was called back then. But the new one is 6,600. And so the PWHL team, the Ottawa Charge, not very happy about that. And even some rumblings from the organization that, well, I don't know about the future of this team in this town after, seeing what the city council did on that front. And I'm like, I don't know. Don't we have like an arena in Canada that can seat as many people as you want, or the new one that's coming up at Le Breton Flats? I don't understand where this dialogue is coming from when when this thing is built, your PWHL team is going to have a nice state-of-the-art facility now to play out of. And yeah, there may be the odd occasion when you're up over 7 for playoff games and things like that. But let's hold the horses on this. If it's proven that you can fill that place on a nightly basis at 6,600, you do have the option of setting up a new lease at Le Breton with the Senators or Canadian Tire Center. Who knows what's the future for it? But I don't know why the long-term future of the Ottawa Charge has any connection to what was announced by Ottawa City Council on Friday. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, at first when we heard this story and that the talk was they weren't consulted, I got the scoop on that. They were consulted. Of course, when the first plans were announced, they didn't exist, but they did know what was going on throughout this process and what the capacity was going to be in the new rink. But when we first started hearing that they weren't happy about it, they were talking about roughly $1 million a game with the decrease in attendance. Now, that's hard to make up. I have a problem with that. I agree with them and see their point. I just don't know if second season, the honeymoon period might be worn off. Are they really going to draw the same numbers? And like you say, if they do, and if they draw more, then okay, work out a deal to go play out in Canada, or work out a deal eventually to play at Le Breton. Like you've got a rink there that's going to be awesome, new everything. It's 6,600. If you can make it work, then that's a perfect place to stay. But if you can't, you're going to have 2 other options within a matter of, well, one of them's an option now, and the other one will be here in 10 years too. So you'll have other options if your team is drawing better than if your team's drawing more butts than there are seats to put them in. I think there will be other options.
There's always going to be pushback on projects like this, taxpayer-wise. Like it's over $400 million. That's a lot of money. But I don't know. I understand. I don't know whether it has to do with, okay, I'm not a sports fan, so I'm not down with this investment, or just generally speaking, the expenditure, they don't want to make it. Just so much pushback on it, at least a lot of vocal pushback. But I'm glad that the city decided what they did, because I'm a sports fan. I love concerts and things, and I don't want Lansdowne to go away. And I feel like if this opportunity wasn't pounced on, I feel like the only thing to do with Lansdowne would be to knock the whole thing down and lose that facility forever. because there probably wasn't going to be an opportunity like this one 10, 15, 20 years from now, because that was a suggestion. Hold on, let's do this later. We have too many more things in the city that need our attention that we'd rather invest in that are more important than this. Well, that's a matter of opinion. In the meantime, any time a stadium gets built or any time there's a major investment with this kind of money, well, there's always going to be a moment where you can get into the whataboutism and say, well, what about this? We need to spend money on that and this and that. I'm glad that Lansdowne is being rebuilt in the way that it needs to be so that it can be successful, so that we have soccer, that we have the CFL, that we have the 67s, and whatever else goes in there. So I was pleased to see them vote the way they did on Friday.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a lot of money, but I'm going to say this much. When a city, a council like this decides to invest money in infrastructure and build things, I'd say 90% of the time, there's no revenue stream coming back. They build a new library. They're not making a lot of money back, right? There's no revenue stream to help offset those expenses. When you build a hockey rink, entertainment facility, conference center like this, there's a revenue stream coming back. And I heard Mayor Sutcliffe say that 69% of the money being put into it is going to come back. Now, their revenue projections, some people have argued that they're a little pie in the sky or whatever, but he believes that that's the number, that of the $400 million they're going to spend, at least 69% of it's going to come back in revenue. So they're going to get some money back for a change instead of, as I said, building a library or, building a new off-ramp or whatever else it is that the city has to put money into. This is one with a revenue stream coming back. So I think when people complain, it's usually about, it's my tax dollars, right? It's my tax dollars being spent. And even in this case, it's not all tax dollars. They're increasing the hotel tax in town. So unless you're going downtown and getting a hotel room every second night, you're not contributing that money. That's coming from visitors to the city. You pay a hotel tax on top of your fees and your regular taxes in a hotel room. Part of that money is going to go into the building of the rink. So there is a plan in place to recoup a good chunk of the change that's being spent by the city. So I think those people need to just settle down. We need a new facility there and go for it. I'm glad it's finally looks like it's going to happen. And they're talking about shovels in the ground, maybe even before the end of the year, Steve. They're talking about shovels in the ground before January 1st, possibly. That would be incredible.
That's exciting for sure. I know there were those who would point to Adisoke, which is the big new library that City Council has approved that
right.
That is, I believe it's underway now. And so the dialogue around that in the arguments that were being made on Friday by some city councilors were that's something that benefits everyone. And it is, universally open to everybody, but it's not used by everybody. Like
Exactly.
Most investments, a percentage of the population will use it. Just because everybody could use a library doesn't mean that everybody wants one or cares about one. So the implication is when you say that this is something like the library is for everybody, you're implying that, a sports team is not for everyone or a sports facility is not for everyone. And that's true. But most investments in a city are not. Either they're not used by everybody or not everybody gives a crap about the thing. So that to me was a non-starter as an argument.
Yeah, I agree. I personally like the library.
All right.
except for the one on Ogilvy. They built that fancy library on Ogilvy Road beside Earl Armstrong Arena, finally upgraded, built it because it used to be in the second floor of Armstrong Arena. Well, they built their own little building, their own library right there, and they have 4 parking spots, Steve. There's 4 parking spots at that library. And I think 3 of them are handicap. What the hell is that?
I don't know. I have no information on that. I do know most of my time in the library. I know you're a book guy and I'm not so much, but most of my time as a kid in the library, I'd go right to the section where there were sports books, and I'd read when I was a kid. The only thing I'd read would be, it was sort of like a Hardy Boys series. It was called the Dave Brody books, and he was a junior hockey player, and he makes his way to the St. Louis Blues in the final book. But that was my big thing in the 70s. So I combined the two: library, sports, good to go.
No Encyclopedia Brown?
So I'm pleased. I'm sorry?
No Encyclopedia Brown? You didn't even at least read Encyclopedia Brown? Never heard of
I
him,
don't know
right?
what that is. No.
Boy detective.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know, like probably from grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You read Encyclopedia Brown Mysteries. No, they were like Hardy Boys, except he was the boy detective. Anyway, forget about it. Don't worry about it. Move on.
No. I don't have to move on. Don't make me move on.
Obscure reference.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to end the show by swapping obscure references, the Dave Brody books and Encyclopedia Brown. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Can we agree on Mr. Muggs when we were in kindergarten?
Who the hell's Mr. Muggs?
No?
Who's Mr. Muggs?
No, forget it. There's a big sheepdog. Ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate you hanging in. If you're still with us, that's a big if at this point. Last 5 minutes of the show, we faded harder than the Senators did in Philadelphia in the second half of the show. But thank you for being with us. Don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com. Thank you to everybody listening on CJRO Radio. Thanks for being with us wherever you are, whatever audio platform you've chosen. We're everywhere, and on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you in our next episode. Sens, by the way, are back at it on Sunday night against the Utah Mammoth. Right now, this game on Saturday was the start of, I believe it is 6 games in 10 days, something like that. Or I don't know, but it's a lot of hockey coming up. So we'll enjoy the freshness of this show because it's going to last for about 5 minutes until the next game is played. But thank you for coming, and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Thanks, Greg.
See you, buddy.